We're Ashley and Ivan. For the last 10 years, we've worked as a husband and wife team in nonprofit and business.
We know both the joy and the tension that comes from working with your spouse. That's why we're so passionate about helping other Christian couples who lead and work together to turn tension into teamwork, communicate clearly, and lead as one.
Let's go on this journey together.
Welcome to the Life Duo podcast. My name is Ivan.
I'm Ashley.
And today we're talking about foundational pieces that every couple needs to turn tension into teamwork, to communicate clearly, and to lead as one.
So today's episode is titled Share Priorities, the Make or Break Factor.
Yes, super important. Yeah, in our past two episodes, 4 and 5, we've talked about other foundational pieces of listening to understand, as well as looking at true teamwork from moving from uno to duo mindset. And today we're looking at shared priorities. And I got to say, this is probably one of the biggest areas that cause tension, but it's also one of the greatest opportunities to turn that tension into teamwork.
You might be working on the same project, but just because I think that this one area of the project is a priority doesn't mean that Ivan will see it that way. And that I might feel that this is really important that we get to finish this right away. He might not see it that way. And so if we don't figure things out, we're going to go a separate direction. I might be running this direction. He might be running that direction. Who knows? And then I'm going to be like, Ivan, where are you? Why are you doing that?
Yep.
And so again, setting priorities to begin with in a team is such an important topic to talk about.
When you're able to set not only shared priorities, but agreed upon priorities, it truly is the foundation for working as a team. I mean, you adopt the uno to duo mindset and you listen to understand, man, you're well on your way to removing a lot of unnecessary fights and tension in your relationship. And yeah, this one is personal to us. It's something that we had to navigate just a few years back with agreeing on shared priorities. The context is we were building out a 5-day challenge for those who felt stuck in transition. And so for me, I felt like God had given me the framework, the content, the flow. And so I assumed that, okay, there's a very clear process of what we need to do. And those are the priorities we need to work on. So in classic Ivan fashion, if you listen to any of our past episodes, is that, man, I ran as fast as I could in that direction thinking, this is what we need to do. This is what is most important to focus on, leaving Ashley totally in the dark around what I was working on. And again, a lot of that came out of passion and excitement for what we were doing. We did feel like we had a kind of a deadline because it was coming near the end of the year with holidays and things, kind of slowing down during that time of the year. So we're like, man, we got to launch this beforehand. I realized after she came to me and was like, hey, like, this is not working. And it was actually really impacting you.
Yeah, he was driving me like a taskmaster. You need to do this. We need to finish this by this day. These are the deadlines. We need to whatever. And I was losing sleep over it. I was so stressed out. I was telling Ivan, I was like, Ivan, like, I don't know what's going on. This seems impossible to meet. And I felt the pressure and the tension to perform for him, my taskmaster at that time. And so then I was telling him, hey, like, this isn't working. What's really going on? It's great ideas, but I feel like I don't have a say in this and it's stressing me out.
Definitely. So as soon as I heard that from her, obviously I knew something had to change. So we had a conversation around it. That was really helpful. It wasn't like a crazy revelatory conversation. It was more just, again, getting on the same page and agreeing around what we should focus on together and hearing from one another of, how do we best go about this so that we're on the same page and continue to stay in the same page?
Yeah, I think that conversation was meaningful for me because it wasn't some like strategic, some like idea session. It was just like more like heart-to-heart conversation. And then after that, we were able to get on the same page together. Okay, now that we cleared the air, let's talk about it then our priorities again together as a team, rather than your priority for me, but as a couple, what's possible, what's not possible, what is the first priority, second and third. And so we were able to actually get on the same page together. Yeah. And when that happened, I think that built greater trust, co-ownership of the project. I wasn't just doing it for him or performing for him in some ways, but it's like, hey, let's work on this together. And then that created a lot of safety for me to continue to work together and trust him.
Well, we're going to unpack that a little bit more of the importance around creating shared priorities and agreed upon priorities so that you can really run in your lanes together and do what God's called you to do. and really enjoy it. But you know, the temptation with anything foundational or basic is like, man, let's just skip. We got to get to the good stuff, right? And the truth is that this is the good stuff. We were talking about earlier, it's like if you went to someone who was building a home, for example, and you knew that they were taking shortcuts on the foundation and they were just being like, no, we'll get to the good stuff, which is like how the house looks on the outside and the lawn and the exterior and how we're going to furnish it. But you knew that like the foundation was weak and they did a cheap job of it. It'd be like, you would not want to buy that home. And in the same way, it's similar to building foundations when we work with each other. We don't want to skip these things. It becomes very, very important for what we want to build on top of this, which essentially is what you're doing together, your leadership, your ministry, your business, whatever it may be. The exterior things, the fruit, the results, that's what everybody wants to focus on. But that all comes from a foundation of knowing how to communicate well, how to work as a team, how to have shared and agreed upon priorities so that you can truly lead as one. And we've got other episodes in the future that are coming out to build on these foundations. But our heart is that don't skip it. Really invest in this, prioritize it. You're going to see the fruit and the results of it as you continue to keep this a priority.
I mean, you buy an old home that has a foundation problem, you're going to pay a lot of money for it, time and effort. So you're either going to pay now or pay later. That's how I see it.
Very true. What can help in these moments when we feel tempted to kind of skip the basics is taking a look at what are the costs if we don't prioritize our work together. So let's take a look at the cost of not prioritizing your work.
So the first one is that you're not on the same page from the beginning. Imagine your starting point is here, your spouse's starting point is out of the shot. Now, you don't work on a clear priorities together, that each person runs in your own direction. You might be working hard, but you're not working together. You might be wasting a lot of time and energy that you have to come back to and then reset priorities later down the line, and that would be costly for you. And that you can be competing for priorities because I think that my priorities are important and yours is not, and so therefore I'm going to be interrupting him. We're going to create a lot of tension, and it's never fun.
Yeah, number 2 is you waste time and energy. It's like you're both in a canoe and one person is paddling one way and the other person is paddling the other way, and what happens is you just start going in circles. That there's a lot of energy and time inputted into projects that you think are important, but then you realize they're not. That's so defeating and discouraging when you're in those moments of like, oh my gosh, we put in all of this time and effort and that wasn't actually even the main thing we were supposed to be doing. It can be easy to get into a blame game in there. It can cause fights, get frustrated with each other. Yeah, it's pretty rough. And so it is a high cost when you don't have those shared priorities.
Not to mention finances. We can waste a lot of money on things that are not important, and that maybe if we talked about the priorities and where we're going to be going, maybe we can better put our resources to where it's needed the most.
That's true.
And not only that, I think even if you're leading other people, if you're not on the same page together, I don't know how you're expecting other people to follow you under your leadership, because they'll be so confused as to, wait, like your wife is saying this, but you are saying this. To have that kind of a disparity is quite confusing.
For sure.
The third one is you're wasting time and energy, then the tension increases, right? And so tug-of-war continues to happen. I'm pulling you in this direction, you're pulling me in the other direction, as we're going to feel chaotic, disillusioned, disconnected. So what's going to happen is you're going to end up interrupting each other because you have to.
Which is frustrating, right? Like if you're in kind of like your go mode and you have an idea of what you need to do and how to go about it, and you're kind of humming along in whatever way, and then your spouse comes over, it's like, hey, actually focus on this. And so those disruptions can definitely be frustrating, and we want to try and avoid those as much as possible in a healthy way.
If I don't feel that you care for my priorities, maybe I can take it personally and say, hey, you're not valuing what I have to say or what I think is important. Is that can also cause tension on a personal level, and that we could not see things eye to eye.
Number 4 for what's the cost is that we move into being more reactive than responsive with other demands. So we all know that when you plan to do something, things change. There's other interruptions, there's other demands of life, and things don't go smoothly as we'd hoped. But when we don't prioritize and have those shared priorities together, we become very reactive to what feels super urgent. And maybe it's not both of you, maybe it's just one of you, where one spouse is like always responding to the demands of others and what feels urgent to them. And that can be really frustrating for the other spouse because, like, why are you acting like this? Why do you feel like you need to do that now? But if you haven't agreed upon priorities, then they're just kind of responding to what they feel like is
Whatever
most
goes,
important.
right?
Yeah, it's just hard because then from there, even though you're a busybody and you're doing a bunch of work and getting a bunch of things done, you're not actually moving what's most important forward. And that leads us into number 5, is that you lose the why. After all this time of doing these different works, it just gets discouraging when you don't see progress on things that matter most. And if that stays like that for long periods of time, I mean, the worst case scenario is that you just give up entirely. It's just you lose that hope, you lose the passion and the drive to do what initially was really exciting to you and what you were thrilled to do with your spouse. So having shared priorities and really fighting for them is so important, because if you don't, the cost, as we mentioned earlier, is really high.
Yeah, so if you want to continue to fight, paddling in circle, waste a lot of time and energy and money.
Yeah.
And if you want to lose the why of why you're doing what you're doing, and then also want to become reactive, then continue to not set priorities straight.
And of course, none of us want that. And the reality of it is when you talk about it, it always sounds like, well, why would anyone do that, right? Like you'd think people would just naturally know how to set priorities and get on the same page with their spouse and be able to move forward in unity and clarity and momentum. But we find that actually there's 3 main reasons why couples don't prioritize their work. So number 1 is assumption. We just assume our spouse sees it the same way we do, and they agree with what we think the priority is for that project or for whatever we're moving forward on in this. And again, this can come even out of a genuine heart to want to move forward and get things done and be faithful to what you've been called to do. But the truth is once we start assuming, we stop communicating. And as soon as that happens, then it's already setting the foundation for misunderstanding, miscommunication, tension, fights, blow-ups, whatever it might be. And so being able to take a step back and recognize, okay, I'm excited about this project. I feel like this is really clear for me of the priorities. But taking a moment to offer that to your spouse or ask them what they see as priorities is huge, so that we're not assuming, but we're really clarifying.
Second reason why couples don't prioritize is because of an avoidance. We say it's easier to just start doing something. Like what Ivan mentioned, hey, just get right into it. We'll figure it out as we go along, and we'll make it work. But we usually never do. So again, stopping and discussing, hey, what is most important? What matters the most to us right now is a key in being on the same page together. Sometimes it feels good though, right? Like just to step into something, it makes me feel productive.
Sure.
But often that productiveness doesn't always translate into an outcome. So I think that's something for us to consider.
Definitely. And this is just a good check-in for us doers, so to speak, and action takers who want to do things fast and get going on it, because that is amazing. And you don't want to get rid of that part of who you are, but making sure that you're spending time intentionally working through the details with your spouse so that when you're both in that place to like hit the green light and go, you can run as hard as and fast together as you can. And the truth is that if we don't take that time to intentionally work through all of that, then the speed that we desire and the action that we want to take ends up being actually our sabotage, because it totally backfires on us because we're working in the wrong direction. We're not aligned with our spouse, and we usually have to backtrack and kind of rework on things. So don't avoid, don't take the bait of just running and start taking action. Although that's amazing, talk with your spouse, get on the same page, and then go and do that. And that brings us to number 3, which is preference. Usually we have a bias towards what we prioritize based on the work that is exciting for us. I am guilty of this 100%. Oh man, I get so excited of creating new things, being in that space of new and opportunities and building from that. It's something I do enjoy, especially when it's connected to helping people and really, really serving them. And so it's easy to want to prioritize those things because it feels good and we like it and we know we're gifted at it and it's kind of our power lane. But we need to take a moment and pause and say, hey, is that actually the most important thing to focus on in this time? And that goes for both husband and wife, that there's going to be things the husband is passionate about and gets excited about in work, and the wife vice versa. And so coming together and saying, hey, help me see what is going on here. And this is what I feel like is the priority. What do you think? Double check me on this. Am I missing something? And really being able to talk it out is going to help just eliminate some of that bias of where you may feel that like we need to go this direction so strongly.
I think as we talk about priorities, maybe we don't have everything figured out. Maybe we're building the plane as we fly them. We're not telling you to identify every little detail. That'll be too much. It's impossible. But I think the key is that you get on the same page by thinking about, okay, one, what's most important for us based on the season that we're in, the finances, the resources that we have. And then all the details will come and you're going to pivot. You're going to talk about how you can add and, remove things as you go along. And I think once we're on that same page, I think that's when we can actually start running into our own power lanes where we love and enjoy. Of course, we do have to do some daily grind too.
Yeah, that's a great example of just real life, that there are demands. There's times where you realize, okay, God, we feel like God is calling us in this direction, or it's clear for both of us that this is where we need to go. But then within that, what are the priorities? And I love what you said. We're not saying you need to talk through every detail. You want to talk through as much as you can so that you're on the same page, and then make sure that you're checking in regularly if things need to pivot or change depending on circumstances changing, or you start knocking out your priorities. So then you finish that. Okay, what's next? Let's recheck in with each other. So you can see why having shared and agreed upon priorities is so important. That really it removes the tug of war and it brings momentum. It helps you have clear and deeper focus and less derailed days from fights and conflict. You also get more done in less time because you're able to really work in your power lanes together interdependently. It also brings more confidence and peace instead of that chaos and panic. And it does bring that freedom for you to truly have the lane you're running in while working with your spouse. And so it's incredibly powerful to have those agreed upon and shared priorities. I remember just a few months ago, we were sitting side by side working on our priorities. We knew what we were supposed to work on. It was a place where both of our gift sets were needed at the same time for this project. So there was things that I was working on, kind of creating from scratch. Ash was finalizing and looking through the details. And typically the way we work is we agree upon what needs to get done, who's doing what. We go and do that. And then we have check-in moments where, hey, can you like double check my work? We really respect and honor what one another have to say about what we're doing. And so we were doing that just side by side. But it was so funny because we were actually kind of like disrupting each other in our workflows in the midst of that. Like I remember one moment be like, okay, I'm kind of done the first draft. Can you take a look? And I would like hand Ashley my laptop. And then she'd be like, okay, I've kind of finished this thing before we totally like sign off 100%. Can you just double check me? And we kept on doing that kind of back and forth on a few different things. And after about 20 minutes, man, I just started laughing because I was like, this is so hilarious in the sense of, we've really, truly learned how to work with one another in shared priorities because, man, just a few years ago, that was like just a fight waiting to be happened. We're like, can you stop interrupting me? Or why are we focusing on this? Or, you just kind of get into it. And it was just a moment where we were like, wow, when you're able to agree upon your priorities and know, okay, both of these things are needed, therefore it's okay to interrupt me because we know we both need to get these things done.
I mean, we had a shared desk at one point, like one of the larger
humble
IKEA
beginnings.
desks. Yeah, it was a humble beginning. And I would bother him so much that he's like, I need my space here. Like, please, like, can you find another spot? Or I would be next to him and it would bother him. So then we would have to draw the line in the middle of the desk and say, this is my spot, that's your spot, don't cross. And so again, like before we learned all of this, we got into a lot of fights and there are a lot of tense moments like that. But we have learned and we're growing. And that's the beauty of shared priorities, right? The interruptions don't go away, but these are good interruptions because you know the end goal. You have the shared outcome. So if I'm interrupting him, he knows that it's nothing personal. I'm not trying to pull him out of his like work mode, but I'm telling him, hey, as we are working together, I'm in a phase 2.2. I need you to help me with this process because I'm finished with my part. And so again, that interruption becomes like a welcome interruptions.
Yep.
Oh, okay, let's take a pause on what I'm working on and let's swap and let's work on it together. Let's pivot. Let's talk about it. It always builds greater result, greater outcome. And that It's a great place to be.
It is, yeah. There's sometimes where I'm like in the zone, got my headphones
Oh,
in,
yeah.
and plugging away on something. And if she can't get my attention, she like turns the light on and off. I'm like, oh, what's up? Like, so when you have that agreed upon outcome, it's like, okay, yeah, this is a welcome interruption. I love that. All right, so let's talk practicals. What does this mean for you and your spouse? We would highly, highly suggest that you come up with a process in which you and your spouse can agree upon shared priorities. And perhaps it's starting with just simply asking one another, hey, in the current project that we're working on, or before we start this thing, where do you see we need to start? What's most important for you? What are your priorities? And you guys having a conversation around that and coming to an agreement. And it's okay if those priorities change over time, that you realize, okay, we started here. We realized after a week or two, we need to actually be working on this thing. Great. Pivot, have that conversation again, agree upon it, and then go for it. So again, what we're saying is don't assume, don't just start acting, and don't have your confirmation bias on what you think is priorities based on the work that you enjoy. And maybe, just maybe, you'd make it a priority of listening to our podcast on a regular basis. We would be honored to have that. And so, again, we're here to help you turn tension into teamwork, to communicate clearly, and lead as one. If you've enjoyed our content, a friendly reminder to subscribe, make sure you like. If you're on YouTube, give us a comment, let us know what part of the episode you love the most. And again, we're grateful to be on this journey with you, and we'll see you in the next episode.